Hey, Oakland! Please welcome local recording artist, Bethesda Records and Laney College professor, Marcy Bias.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight over the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. How the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Hello, Oakland. I have to say this gets scarier every time I do it because the crowds keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, before Elizabeth comes on stage, I want to talk to you guys about our grassroots movement. So this is not a buzzword for us. This is actually how we are running our campaign. We are having a movement built by all of you here. So what that means is if every single one of us here goes out and calls 5 friends, goes out and knocks on 10 doors, we've covered half of San Francisco and Oakland, right? So we are going to need your help. If you are ready to get organized and volunteer, do me a favor, pull out your phones. I'll wait till I see them. There we go. Okay, so this is a number that you've already texted today, 24477. Pull up that message that you sent to get in. 24477, yep, Bailey. There we go. Okay, if you are ready to volunteer, I want you to text the word organize to 24477. Again, if you are ready to volunteer, I want you to text the word organize to 24477. Should I spell it? I think we're good. Okay. Again, I just want to say thank you all so much for coming out here tonight. I know a lot of us stood. I told you it's getting scarier. A lot of us stood in line for hours. Thank you. It means so much. Shout out to y'all. So I do want to give a quick shout out to our fantastic volunteers. Can we get a round of applause for our volunteers? We cannot do this event without you all, volunteers. At the end of the event, volunteers, can you please meet me under this vertical flag right here? We are going to take a photo together. Volunteers, please meet me here right after the event. All right, thank you all so much for coming. I am so excited to see all of you out in the streets organizing, making this happen. Thank you, Oakland.
Good evening, Oakland. My name is Sonia Mehta, and I am a former Oakland Public School teacher. I stand here on this stage today as a testament to the amazing public education that I received because my parents crossed oceans so that I could have educational opportunity, because I grew up in a zip code that had access to quality schools, because I had a chance to attend two of the finest universities, public universities in the nation, and because I had 2 years of quality preschool before my formal academic career began. These are opportunities that should be afforded to every single child in our nation. And that is why I'm here supporting Senator Elizabeth Warren for president. I taught kindergarten for 5 years in the Fruitvale neighborhood of East Oakland, where the majority of my students did not have the opportunity to go to preschool. The tragedy is that many of my students' parents had done everything in their power to advocate for their children. They had crossed borders to seek a better life. They were working multiple jobs to make ends meet. And they had put their children on public preschool waiting lists and hoping against hope that a spot would open up for them. Some of my students, like Jesus, Anthony, Jocelyn, and Tamia, got lucky and were able to take advantage of the free state preschool opportunities and federally funded Head Start programs. But there is far more need than these programs are able to serve, and many more of my students, like Haley, Jasmine, Kiana, and Brandon, sat on wait lists for years. Those kids were denied the chance to access the important play-based learning, language development, literacy foundations, and social-emotional tools that would set them up for success in kindergarten and beyond. We as a nation had missed out on a huge opportunity to invest in their development and had denied our most vulnerable families the strong start that they deserve. The painful reality is that in this nation, the wealthiest nation on earth, where education is supposed to be the great equalizer, we still have millions of families who are unable to access and afford quality early childhood education. Today, in more than half the states in the country, a year of childcare costs more than a year of in-state college tuition. 51% of Americans live in childcare deserts where there simply aren't enough licensed childcare options available to them to meet the need. Our system is not working for our most vulnerable families, and I'm so proud to share that Senator Elizabeth Warren is the first 2020 presidential candidate who has a national plan to make preschool affordable for all families. Her bold new universal child care and early learning plan would guarantee early education to every child in America from birth to school age. It will be free for millions of families and affordable for everyone, and paid for by her ultra-millionaire tax on those, a tax on those who have more than $50 million. That is the kind of big structural change we need to create an economy that works for everyone. Elizabeth Warren understands that we must offer early learning to all kids, no matter what zip code they were born into. She understands that when kids are exposed to diversity at a young age, they develop empathy across lines of difference, which is so deeply needed in our nation today. She understands that when young children have access to books, learning through play and songs, and multi-sensory experiences that spark their curiosity and ignite their love of learning, they are more likely to graduate from high school, attend college, and unlock their full potential. In the wealthiest nation on the planet, access to affordable, high-quality early education should be a right and not a privilege reserved for the rich. And Elizabeth Warren doesn't just have a plan for early childhood education. As president, she will wipe away student loan debt for 42 million Americans and make tuition free at public colleges. She has committed her life to working in service of families and communities, and will make full funding of cradle to college supports a cornerstone of her presidency. Education has the power to unlock the potential of the 75 million kids across our nation, but only if it receives the investments to make good on that promise. Together, we can keep that promise to all of America's kids so that one of them can stand on this stage years from now. So who's ready to dream big, fight hard, and elect Elizabeth Warren as our next president?
She ready?
So let's get to work. It is my great honor and privilege to introduce the next president of the United States, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Hello, Oakland! We need big structural change in this country. I'm Elizabeth Warren. I'm running for president because I got a plan for that. Whoa! So the bad news is we got a really late start tonight. For that, I apologize. The good news is the reason's because we had so many people who had to make it in here. Thank you. So this is my 90th town hall, 90. And the biggest one so far. Thank you, Oakland. I'm coming back to Oakland. So, usually when we do these town halls, I talk a little and then I take a bunch of questions because that's a lot of fun. And then at the end, maybe 3 or 4 people want to stay around and get a picture. But pictures, that guy wants a picture right there. Yeah, the one in the sunglasses, I got you. Okay. But since we kind of got a late start tonight and we may have a long selfie line, I thought what we do tonight is I'm going to talk. I'm not going to do questions tonight. I'll try to hit as many topics as I can. And then anybody who wants to stay, I'll stay as late as you want. We'll get pictures. Okay. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, tell you a little bit about why I'm in this fight, and also say a very deep thank you for being here. 2020, this is it. This really is it. Our country is in real trouble. And the decision that gets made in 2020 is going to echo through the generations. And we got to be in this fight all the way. It's an honor to fight alongside you. Thank you for being here tonight. So, I grew up out in Oklahoma. We got any Okies? One or two? Okay, one or two. I grew up out in Oklahoma. I am the baby in my family. I have 3 older brothers, much older brothers. I was what used to be called a late in life baby. My mother always just called me the surprise. Now, all 3 of my older brothers, they went off and they joined the military. That was their ticket in America. So my oldest brother, Don Reed, he was career military. He spent about 5.5 years in combat in Vietnam. We were lucky to get him back home. Thank you. My brother John, he spent a year stationed overseas and then came back and worked construction the rest of his life. My third brother, David, he trained as a combat medic. Now, we have a rule in our family, and that is never choke around David. The reason is, notwithstanding that he is now in his 70s, he is convinced he could do an emergency tracheotomy, and he's just looking for his big chance. So it makes for some very exciting Thanksgivings. Somebody goes, and everybody just backs out of the room. One me. So I'm close to my brothers. All 3 of them live back in Oklahoma now, and I stay in close touch with them. When we were growing up, our daddy had a lot of different jobs. He sold paint, he sold carpet, he sold fencing, he sold housewares. And when I was in middle school, the boys were all gone, and to this day they are still referred to as the boys. The boys were all gone, and it was just my mama and my daddy and me when my daddy had a massive heart attack. And we thought we were going to lose him. But he held on. But when he got home, he couldn't go to work for a long, long time. And we lost a family station wagon. And at night, I used to hear my mama talk. She would come in, she'd tuck me into bed, she'd kiss me goodnight, she'd tell me everything was fine. And then she'd leave, and I'd listen while my parents talked to each other. That's where I learned words like mortgage and foreclosure. And I still remember the day when I walked into my folks' bedroom and laid out on the bed was the dress. Now, some of you may know the dress. It's the one that only comes out for weddings, funerals, and graduations. And there's my mama in her slip and her stockings, and she's pacing back and forth, and she's saying, "We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house." She was 50 years old. She had never worked outside the home, and she was terrified. And I'm just standing there in the door. I'm just a kid. And finally, she looks at me, and she looks at that dress, and she looks at me, and she looks at that dress, and she wipes her face, pulls that dress on, puts on her high heels, and she walked to the Sears Roebuck, and she got a full-time minimum wage job answering phones. That minimum wage job saved our house, and it saved our family. Now, for a long time, I thought that story was just the story of what my mama taught me. And that is, no matter how scared you are, no matter how hard it looks, when it comes down to it, you do what needs to be done to take care of the people you love. And it was years later that I came to understand that wasn't just a story about my mother. It's a story about millions of people all across this country. People who, no matter how scared they are, no matter how hard it is, they reach down deep, they find what they have to find, and they take care of the people they love. But it was only years after that that I came to understand that story is also a story about government. Because when I was a girl, a full-time minimum wage job in America would support a family of 3. It would pay a mortgage, it would cover the utilities, and it would put groceries on the table. Today, a minimum wage job in America will not keep a mama and a baby out of poverty. That is wrong, and that is why I am in this fight. There it is. And understand, that difference is not an accident. That difference is not something that just happened because of gravity. That difference is about who government works for. There it is. Because when I was a girl, the question asked in Congress about the minimum wage was, what does it take a family of 3 to survive? What does it take a family of 3 to get a toehold in America's middle class, a chance to build some real security? Today, the question asked in Washington when they set the minimum wage is, what will maximize the profits of a bunch of giant multinational corporations? Well, I don't want a government that works for giant multinational corporations. I want one that works for our families. So, I said, the 3 boys, they all went off, they joined the military. That was for them. Me, I had a different dream. I have known what I wanted to be since 2nd grade. Oh, I hear you laugh. Some of you did not decide until 3rd grade. Even a few 4th grades back there. I can tell. No, I have. I've known what I wanted to do since 2nd grade. I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for America's public school? Oh, and I committed early. I used to line my dolls up and teach school. I did. I want you all to know I was tough but fair. Oh, I wanted to be a teacher. But by the time I graduated high school, we didn't have the money for a college application, much less to send me off to 4 years at university. That just wasn't going to happen. So, like a lot of Americans, I do not have a straight line story. I have a story that has some twists and turns. So here's how it goes. I graduate from high school and I get a scholarship to college. Yay! And then at 19, I fall in love. Yay! And get married to the first husband. Yay! Yeah, I numbered them. And then dropped out of school and got a full-time job, minimum wage, answering phones. And I thought that would be my life, a good life, a life I had chosen, but not the dream. And then I found it. A commuter college down in Texas, near where we live. Yeah, commuter college 45 minutes away that costs $50 a semester. Yeah, that was it for me, and I hung on for dear life. I finished my diploma. I became a special needs teacher. I have lived my dream. God, I love that. I loved my kids. And if I've got any special needs teachers here, yes, you'll back me up on this. It's not a job, it's a calling. Yeah, so here's the deal. I loved it, and I probably would still be doing it today, except there's another twist in the story. And here's the twist. By the end of the first year, I was visibly pregnant. And the principal did what principals did in those days. Wished me luck, showed me the door, and hired someone else for the job. Those were the days. So there I am. I'm at home with a baby. I can't get a job. What am I going to do? And I get this crazy idea. I'll go to law school. Yes, the dream of everybody who can't figure out what you're going to do. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So I decide, okay, I'm going to go to law school. I find a public law school, $450 a semester. And baby on hip, I head off and do 3 years in law school, graduate, visibly pregnant. You will discover a pattern to this. And take the bar and practice law for 45 minutes. And then went back to my first love, teaching. I traded little ones for big ones, and then spent my career teaching in law school, teaching in university. And I taught money. So contract law, commercial law, corporate finance, economics, bankruptcy, I was in there, taught every bit of it. But there was always one central question that I worked on, and that is what's happening to working families in America? Why is America's middle class being hollowed out? Why is it that people who work every bit as hard as my mother worked a generation ago today find the road so rocky and steep? And for people of color, even rockier and even steeper. And the answer, it's like the answer on minimum wage. It's the fundamental question of who government works for. Understand it this way. We have a government that works great, works fabulously for giant drug companies, just not working for people who are trying to get a prescription filled. Yeah. We have a government that works great for private prisons that rake in money, just not for the people and the communities whose lives they destroy. We have a government that works great, terrifically, for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, just not for the rest of us who worry about climate change bearing down upon us. So here's the deal. When you've got a government that works great for those with money, works great for those who can hire an army of lobbyists and lawyers, works great for those at the top, but isn't working for the rest of the people, that is corruption, pure and simple, and we need to call it out. Corruption. And understand this, the influence of money is felt everywhere in Washington. It touches every decision, just nudges it a little, opens up a little help for those who've got it. Whatever issue brought you here today, I guarantee that if there's a decision to be made in Washington, that decision has been influenced by money, and that is corruption. I want to give you an example of this, one that we're all living with right now. You go back and read about in the 90s, early 90s, this country is beginning to get the first real handle on climate change. Not all the way there, don't have all the right numbers, don't have the math quite worked out, but have the basic idea. And here's the thing. At that time, Democrats and Republicans were working together, saying, whoa, we need to figure out what to do here. Do we need some tougher regulations? Do we need to change the law? Do we need some more what do we need to do here? What investments do we need to make? And because nobody, regardless of political party, had wanted to be the ones on the watch when a real crisis hit. So that's how it starts to work. And then along come the Koch brothers. Oh, I see you've heard of them. The Koch brothers, the oil companies, some of the big polluters, and they say, whoa, wait a minute, just wait a minute here. If this government gets really serious about climate change, if they start changing the rules and the regulations to avoid climate change, that could cut into our profits. That could upset our profit model. That could really cost us big money. So they have a choice. They could make an investment here. These are rich guys, and they got lots of good advisors, so they could make investments. They could invest in carbon capture, how they're going to clean up the air and clean up the water. No, they don't want to do that. No. They could decide that they weren't going to pull up any more fossil fuels, that they were going to switch over to clean energy, to biofuels, to renewables. No, they don't want to do that. They make a better investment. They invest in politicians. They flood Washington with money. Oh, and the one that really gets me, with bought and paid for experts. People who raise doubt about climate. People who say, oh, I don't know, the dinosaurs loved it, right? Why do they do that? Think about this. These are bought and paid for experts. This is not because the Koch brothers, the oil companies, don't understand the science. It's because they want to create doubt. Because doubt works like an umbrella under which all of the politicians can hide. They can keep taking Koch brother money, they can keep taking oil company money, and they can do absolutely nothing about climate change. You want to understand why we face a crisis right now? It is 25 years of corruption in Washington that brings us to this moment. And here's the deal. You want to make real change on climate? You want to make real change? Not just, a couple of things here and there, that it's going to take attacking that corruption head on. That's where we start. So, let's talk about what we need to do. After all, I got a plan for that. All right, let's talk about it. So part one, let's attack the corruption head on. Here's the good news. I have the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. We need the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. Okay, so it's a big plan. Since money is everywhere, it's got lots of parts to it. Let me just give you a sampling, a little tasting out of this. Part one, end lobbying as we know it. Block the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. Oh, here's a good one. Make the Supreme Court follow basic rules of conflict of interest and ethics. Okay, I could do these all night long, but I really could. But just one more, and man, this is a good one. You want to root out a little corruption? Make every person who runs for federal office put their tax returns online. Okay, part one, attack the corruption head on. Part two, we need to make some structural change in this economy. And let me give you a couple of ideas around that. The first one, we got a problem. Real concentration in industry. We got big ag. Oh, big tech. Anyone heard of it? You know, gee, cloud out the sun. Big finance. Okay, we're getting real concentration in these industries. And here's the problem. There are a lot of problems with concentration, but mostly it's just how they make their own decisions on everything, right? There's no balance in the system. So they roll over their own employees, fine. They roll over their customers, yeah. They roll over the communities where they're located. So what are you going to do about it? And the answer is, you want structural change? Then we need more power in the hands of employees. And that means make it easier to join a union and give unions more power when they negotiate. Unions built America's middle class. Unions will rebuild America's middle class. Okay, structural change in this economy. That's part one. How about another one? I want to see an ultra-millionaire's wealth tax. Let's do it. Now let's talk for just a minute about what this means. On great fortunes in this country, those of $50 million and more, on your 50 millionth and first dollar, you got to pay 2 cents. 2 cents, babe. 2 cents and 2 cents on every dollar after that. Okay, that's the idea. And just so everybody understands how a wealth tax works, we may have a few people who own a home or who grew up in where folks were owning a home. It's like a property tax, right? Homeowners have been paying property tax forever. All I'm saying is for the ultra millionaires, let's include the diamonds, the stock portfolio, the Rembrandts, and the yachts. Just kind of the whole thing. 2 cents. 2 cents. And here's the deal. The whole point of this is not to be punitive. It's really not. You know, you had a great idea. You worked hard. You ate lots of ramen noodles, right? Or you inherited well. I know him, yep. Either way, I guarantee that great fortune built here in America was built in part using workers all of us help pay to educate. Yep. It was built in part getting your goods to market on roads and bridges all of us help pay to build. It was built in part protected by police and firefighters all of us help to pay the salaries for. So all we're saying is, you make it big, good for you. That's great. Fabulous that you made it big. But pitch in 2 cents so everybody else gets a chance to make it in this country. 2 cents. 2 cents. And here's what we can do for 2 cents. You ready? Okay, 2 cents. Universal child care for every baby age 0 to 5. 2 cents. Plus, I'm going to keep doing these together, plus universal pre-K for every 3-year-old and 4-year-old in this country. Plus, raise the wages of every child care worker and preschool teacher to a professional level, like they deserve. 2 cents. You can do all of those and more. we can do tuition-free technical school, community college, four-year college for everyone in this country who wants it. And I'm still not through. We can do all of that, plus we can cancel student loan debt for 95% of the people who've got it. That's what it means to have a plan. You know, and I do hope for all, when people keep saying to me, 2 cents? You can do that for 2 cents? What does that tell you about how badly broken this economy is? How much wealth has been sucked up to the top, and how that top keeps growing faster and faster. 2 cents. That's all we're asking for. And just so everybody's clear on this, the 99% in America last year paid 7.2% of your total wealth in taxes. The top paid 3.2%. I'm tired of freeloading billionaires. Make them pay up. Okay. All right. So there we go. Attack corruption head on. Yes, couple of structural changes in this economy. And third, we got to change the rules to protect our democracy. I want to see a constitutional amendment to protect the right of every American citizen to vote and to get that vote counted. Roll back every voter suppression law and gerrymander in this country. Oh, and I'll just do one more. Overturn Citizens United. Democracy is not for sale. So there it is, just 3 things. Right? Just 3 things. Attack the corruption, put a little different structure in this economy, and protect our democracy. Gotta do this. Now, understand this for me. Those things are tied to each other. They're not just random things. What they're all about is opportunity, a chance to get in the game, a chance to build something going forward. And it looks different for everybody, but it is that chance. It's about a chance to get a good education from 0 all the way through. And not just for some of our kids, for all of our kids. It's about a chance to get a good job. It's about a chance to be able to start your own business. It's about a chance to buy a home, to start a family. Remember, I'm a special needs teacher. It may be about a chance to live independently, but it's about a chance to build a future. Opportunity, a chance. Because here's the deal. My daddy, he ended up as a janitor, but his baby daughter, she got a chance. She got an opportunity to become a public school teacher, an opportunity to become a college professor, an opportunity to become a United States senator, and an opportunity to run for president of the United States. So, 89 times when I've done this before, this is the point where I stop and I take a lot of questions. But what I want to do tonight is just a quick one, a lightning round of things that I get asked over and over, so let me just mention a couple. Another mass shooting today. And it's not just the mass shootings. It's the ones that never make the headlines. It's the kids who are shot at the playground, on the sidewalk, in their own homes. Gun violence touches families every day. 7 of our children die today from gun violence. And it will happen again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. If 7 of our children were dying every day from some mysterious illness, we would pull out all the stops until we figured out what was wrong. But we don't do that. And why do we not do that? Corruption. The NRA holds Congress hostage. So here's a promise I make to you. On the question of gun violence, I will be fearless. We will fight side by side, and we will protect our children. Okay, I got to tell you about one more thing. We're just going to tuck these in. And that is, because we got to say this whenever we get together, healthcare is a basic human right. We fight for basic human rights. I believe in Medicare for all. That's how we're going to provide health care to every American in this country. But I want to say one more part about this, because this is a part, we got to talk about who we are as a country, and healthcare is a place to do this. You know, it's been not quite 2 years ago now that the Republican majority in the House voted to roll back health care for millions of Americans across this country, tens of millions. Yeah. But here's the thing. They vote to roll back health care, and you know what they do next? They give each other high fives. What kind of a people high five each other for taking away health care from tens of millions of Americans? That was to the point. So, what do we do as a country? And this is a moment, I think, we got to go back and kind of get down to the basics on this. Healthcare, we got to make sure, healthcare for everyone. But one of the things the Republicans did in that bill, and their big plan, and they're still working on it, was to take away Medicaid from millions of people. Now, I get they wanted to roll back anything President Obama had done. They spent their time when he was president trying to deny that he was president, and as soon as Donald Trump got into office, if President Obama had done it, roll it back. But it wasn't enough just to roll back the Affordable Care Act, the help he had provided for so many millions of Americans. No, they wanted to take a big hunk out of Medicaid. And you know why? Because they figured Medicaid's about somebody else. It's not about you. You won't care. You won't get out there and fight for it. Here's the deal. 2 out of every 3 seniors living in a nursing home counts on Medicaid to cover the bills. Anybody in here know someone who's had a substance abuse problem? Lost someone maybe to addiction? Yeah, it's Medicaid that most likely has paid the bills. Anyone, mental health, have someone you love who's had a mental health problem? It's Medicaid, most likely, that is covering the bills. And anybody have a beloved friend or niece who had a baby that ran up $1 million in medical bills in the first couple of months? Yeah, even if the parents had full, fabulous health insurance, it's Medicaid that steps up with the breathing equipment and the occupational therapist and the speech therapist and all the special help that that baby is going to need to be able to live the fullest and richest life that she can. So here's how I see this. When we talk about health care, we got to stick with the basics. And here's how the basics work. It's Medicaid. We don't know whose grandma is going to outlive her health care. We don't know who's going to outlive her savings. We don't know whose beloved brother or sister or cousin is going to get caught in the grip of mental illness or of addiction. We don't know. And we don't know whose beloved friend is going to have the baby that needs $1 million worth of medical care in the first few weeks. But here's what we do know. As Americans, as human beings, we will be there for each other when it happens. That's the healthcare system we want in America. That is the best of America. Okay, and if I took one more question, I think the question would be about immigration. So let's do this one. The idea of a border wall, that's not about security, that's about hate. Again, this is down to our values. So let's just lay them out there. We're going to protect our dreamers and make sure they have a path to citizenship. We're going to protect the millions of people who are here now and give them a path to citizenship. We are not going to break families apart. Not now, not ever. We're going to protect people who have temporary protected status. We're going to protect and change our visa system. We're going to be an America that understands immigration is not our weakness, it is our strength. Okay, so those were 3 good questions that you all asked. But they're the 3 I get most often. And so I just wanted you to do them a little bit here. You know, I get it. There's a lot we need to do. There's a lot that's broken. And when I first got into this race, I went out, I talked about it on the first day, and I was in there about, here's a plan and here's another one. And I went back to the Senate. And another senator came up to me and said, I saw you this past weekend. I was, pretty gutsy to get into that Senate race, or to the presidential race. I said, yeah, it is. And you're surprised why? And I said, he said, well, the deal is, though, I listened to the things you were talking about, and let me just offer a little advice. I said, said, what you're asking for is too hard. Too complicated. Too many moving parts. You got too much going on here. Ask for something smaller. Some little compromise. Piece over here, piece over there. Just 2 things, maybe. Smile more. It's true. And when I heard that, I found myself thinking, so what do you think the naysayers said to the abolitionists? Give up now. It's too hard. Just quit. You'll never get that done, right? That's not going to happen. What do you think they said to the suffragettes? Quit now. Too hard. It is so not going to happen, right? What did they say to the early union organizers? Quit now. Too hard. You'll never get this done. What did they say to the foot soldiers in the civil rights movement? Give up now. America is not going to change. What did they say just a few years ago to the LGBTQ activists, the ones who wanted equal marriage, equal rights? They said, give up now. Too hard. You'll never get that done. But here's the deal. They didn't give up. They got organized. They built a grassroots movement. They persisted. And they changed the course of American history. This is our moment in American history. Our moment to dream big. Our moment to fight hard. And our moment to win. You guys are fabulous. Thank you. Dream big. Dream big. Dream big. Dream big. Dream big. And let's win. All right. All right. You got this. Sonia, tell them what to do.
Let's give it up one more time for our next president.
I love you too.
And if you would like a photo with the next president, we'll be lining up on the California flag side. The photos will be taken here on stage, so this will be the line.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you. Good night.